Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us. But thank you guys for tuning in. We will be covering Italy defeating France 3-1 at the Parc des Princes. We will discuss Jamal Musiala not being on the Ballon d'Or. Why was Jamal Musiala not on the Ballon d'Or list nominees? Interesting developments there. We'll discuss Salah, Van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's clear they're all under with 1 year left on their deal, and we'll discuss which one's most important to sign an extension. We'll discuss Kane using the Euro heartache as fuel for the upcoming World Cup, and then we'll discuss the top soccer headlines as we always do. Before we start off, though, slight technical difficulties. Before we start off, though, I just wanted to let y'all know, if you've got a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes this show great, and we thrive on your energy and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion, you just have to share. Don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to the GSMCpodcast.net to tip, donate, and leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We have to start off, though, with Italy defeating France 3-1 at the Parc des Princes. The game opened up with when I talk about straight out of kickoff, I mean literally straight after kickoff. Really sort of gasp of concentration from Italy in that opening minute. Initially from the kickoff, they spring the ball out. They spring the ball out wide to Barcola, who's able to get behind the French defense, and it's 1-0 to Italy. A really poor sort of goal to give up when you're giving it up I believe it happened 13 seconds in. It was incredible, but Italy were able to hang on. They conceded that early goal, but Italy, they showed some good general play, and they had some good general play. They created a lot of opportunities, and they were looked more forward-thinking, forward-going than the previous games, and they were rewarded. They had a chance early on where I believe it was Fratesi that hit the crossbar on a header, and it was just a sign of things to come, because they were able. France's defense looked very, very attackable. There was a lot of space in there. There was no compact nature to how French played. There was a lot of space to take advantage of. Fratesi, at Seta Fratesi's opportunity they came off the bar through a chance from Italy, being a little bit more direct. And Retegui had a few opportunities there as well. And then eventually the equalizer came. It was a good combination between Tonali and Di Marco. Tonali was actually not involved in the European Championship this summer. You remember he had this betting scandal that basically took him out the duration of the season. That new signing he was for Newcastle. His ban literally ended a few weeks ago, where he played his first game in the EFL Cup, where they took on Nottingham Forest. That was his first game back, and he's settling back into the Newcastle team. and he's returned to Italy, and he's an important part of that midfield. Someone that can get on the ball and drive it up, and has the ability to connect 1-2. And he connected with Dimarco, and I have to say, Dimarco caught that volley. Oh my goodness! I mean, what a goal! What a strike! To beat Mike Mignon, who also had a really, really good game, despite him conceding 3 goals. I thought he made some really, really good saves. He's a really good goalkeeper, very good goalkeeper. But that strike by Dimarco was unsavable. It was a sensational goal to equalize, and he had that sort of celebration. I mean, everything about it was class, and Italy looked vulnerable. I mean, France looked vulnerable. The amount of space they gave up. And yeah, I talked about the Dimarco goal. The second goal comes later on the second half, through Fratesi. Again, it's good combination play. It's really good play, forward thinking. Reteki getting this ball, playing in a really good ball in a tight angle, sort of in between Saliba and Fofana. Saliba and Konate, not Fofana, Konate, and it was a really good ball because from that angle it's hard to see that pass, because Saliba is sort of in between Konate is also in that sort of area, and he's having to find the gap in there, and he plays in a brilliant ball, and then it's a good sliding finish from Fratesi, who was getting in the right places at the right time. As I said earlier, he hit the crossbar, making a forward run, and then this time he's able to get it to go on a sort of sliding finish. And France, they didn't really create that much big chances. Even when they went down, they had a little spring of possession, but Italy defended really well. And Italy, honestly, if Italy were more clinical in transition and took advantage of the space and could get that final ball right a few more times, this could have been 4-5 with the amount of space they had, because they had a lot of space to attack. And then obviously Mike Mignon there was one save he had on Fratesi. And then, in my opinion, it was a penalty on the back post. I believe, for me, watching it, Calafiori was fouled in there whenever he was going for that rebound sort of goal. I don't remember exactly who the French defender was, but the French defender try to make a play on the ball, and he gets the ball at the end, but I believe he made contact with Calafiori first. Obviously, the referee in VAR didn't deem it as such, but it didn't stop Italy from eventually getting the third. And to seal it off, it was Raspadori who actually came off the bench, Giacomo Raspadori, to finishing off for Italy. Again, in my opinion, it was poor defending for France. A lot of space in there. And this is in the box too. Just so much space there. They looked defensively out of shape, France did. A lot of space they gave up throughout the duration of the game. And look, I know this is Nations League, so it's not a big deal. Obviously, Nations League, France, they're battling in World Cup, European Championships. Nations League, the opening day, it's not a big thing. But the way they got outplayed and how open that they were in Parc des Princes, I have to say it's a little, I'd be a little fearful if I was a French fan. And on top of that, at the same time, this could be a sign of some regression. France, that European Championship, we knew they really struggled to create much that European Championship. And in that European Championship, the one thing they could still put their hat on, they could tip their hat on, is that they were very, very defensively solid. They didn't give up too much space. There was no gasp of concentration in the defense. Everything was tight, and they were able to defend really, really well. In this game, they were extremely open. And yes, Barcola is playing, Olise is playing, and Klaus is playing. So, and these are players that were not involved at the European Championship. So, Barcola was to an extent. So, you could give them this is not the full team, but you have Griezmann there, you have Mbappe, You have Kante, Saliba, Konate, Magnan, Hernandez. This is a majority, first team for France. And they for me, they disappointed. The result is not good. We read the statistics. 12 shots for France, 11 shots for Italy, 3 shots on target for France, 6 shots on target for Italy. But I will say, the stats don't show, but Italy had more clear-cut opportunities. The amount of times that they had an advantage in terms of attackers to defenders, you never see France be that vulnerable defensively under the Deschamps. And the Deschamps did come out and said experimenting cost them. I don't know exactly what he's trying to... Okay, let's read his quotes, actually. Let's read his quotes right away. So he said, it's a question of the Deschamps. It's a question of balance / imbalance. This team is young and some made their debuts today. I know that by not putting the starting team on the pitch, I took some risk and this damaged the overall performance. The defense has changed. I've already said time. The time has come to give players playing time to as many players as possible, and tonight in front of high-level opponents, we pay dearly. In the next game, that vision of things will not change. It is time to do it. We had a great start after the goal, immediately put good pressure on the opponent, but then things got a bit more complicated. When there are goals, there are also mistakes, but tonight, from an athletic point of view, we were already lacking in the second part of the first half. In the second half, we started again with good intentions, but they scored the goal to make it 1-2, and with this low block, Italy managed to play on the counter. And yes, Italy defended really, really well, and I wouldn't say they played a low block. They played a little bit more compact, which, we expect that from Italians, even with this new generation. But they were looking to attack on the counter, and they were getting number forward, and they were positive in terms of getting players forward and taking advantage of space and getting those sort of superior positions, 3-on-2s, 4-on-2s, with that extra man in attack. So I wouldn't say necessarily they played a low block. They just defended really, really well with a tight unit, and they were able to spring off that. And for France to go up early within 20 seconds, and to be playing at the Parc de France, and to get outplayed for the rest of the game like the way that they did, for me, it is a bit shameful. And then Griezmann came out with some quotes as well, basically saying the tactics. We weren't tactically set up right, or whatever. It wasn't tactically... that sort of sounds like a shot at Deschamps. And is the message from Deschamps not getting to the players the way it used to? I don't know. But after the regression that France has had at the European Championship, or the performance they had at the European Championship, there might be a regression in this team. This might not be the ultra that we've seen for the past, 6 years or so. Maybe there's something bigger. Maybe there is a regression going on here. Now, France is always going to have a superior talent field. You see the players coming up the ranks. You see the players that were involved with France at the Olympics, and that wasn't even their main U23 team, their best U23 team. There was a lot of players that they couldn't even get. So, look, it's very, very, interesting what we saw today. And it's a good sign for Italy, because obviously Italy didn't have the greatest of European Championship. And we know with Italy, it's clear, it came from their mouth exactly. The project is the 2026 World Cup. But the good thing about it is we're seeing some slow progression. What we saw today is better than what we saw at the European Championship. So this is going to be a build-up in progression. And this is an Italy team that hasn't made the last 2 World Cups. This is an Italy team that hasn't played a knockout stage game since the 2006 World Cup that they won. That is the last time they played a knockout stage game in the World Cup. They got eliminated in the group stages in 2010 in a group with Slovakia, New Zealand, and Paraguay. They got eliminated in the 2014 World Cup group stages in the group that was the group of death of that World Cup, arguably, when they had Uruguay, England, and then and then the fairy tale of that tournament, Costa Rica, who actually won that group and went on to reach the quarterfinals of that World Cup. And then the next two World Cups, the 2018 World Cup, they didn't qualify, and the 2022 World Cup, they didn't qualify. So there's a lot riding, there's a lot of pressure riding on this sort of run. Italy, they can't afford to miss a third straight World Cup. This is a country with supreme footballing culture and with supreme footballing tradition. They're one of the top teams in terms of how many World Cups that they've won. I believe they're tied second with 4 World Cups. Let me fact check that actually. Let's search it up real quick. Yeah, 4 World Cups in 34, 38, 82, and 2006. So this is a country with supreme history, and they've, culture. So there's huge pressure on them. And I look forward to continuing to see their development as well under Luciano Spalletti, who I think was rightly retained as Italy manager. I think he's a good manager, and he just didn't have enough time to really, have much time entering the European Championship to turn around this Italy team before then. But I believe in him, and I think this Italy team is on their way to being a good team once again. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Jamal Musiala not being on the Ballon d'Or nominees.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed Italy defeating France 3-1 at the Parc des Princes. We move on to discuss Jamal Musiala. He is actually not on the nominees list for the Ballon d'Or, which I didn't catch. We did a segment on the Ballon d'Or nominees yesterday, but I didn't catch Jamal Musiala not being on the list. That it slipped my mind. And for me, I have to say that's ridiculous. For me, that's ridiculous. I've been very clear on what I thought of Jamal Musiala. I believe he is the best player under the age of 23. 23. He is now 21 years old. I think he's the best player under the age of 23 in the world. And that doesn't include Florian Wirtz, who was a Ballon d'Or nominee. It includes Jude Bellingham, who's a Ballon d'Or nominee. It includes Pedri. It includes Bukayo Saka, who's also under 23. It includes... actually, Bukayo Saka is really under 20? No, he's not, is he? He is 23. Wow, Bukayo Saka is still 23? Okay, he's young. I know he was young, but... That includes Lamine Yamal, who can get there. It includes Camavinga, Gvardiol, you know. For me, he's a brilliant player, Jamal Musiala. I haven't seen a player, I haven't seen many. Let me rephrase that. I haven't seen many players that can dribble in tight spaces the way Jamal Musiala does. Play in tight spaces with that sort of control, with that sort of touch, and to be able to get past players and to find spaces and make space for himself and be able to get at the right places at the right time to get a shot off. Just a brilliant, brilliant player. The way he slithers past people, he is so supremely technically gifted. And yes, in terms of he's not the biggest goal scorer. He's not the biggest assist maker. He's not a particularly electric sort of creative player like a De Bruyne could be. And he's not a sort of player that is going to be so direct and score a lot of goals the way, let me get a player like a Mohamed Salah. He's not going to be a goal scorer like him. But what he does is he gets on the ball and he's not going to lose it. And he's going to think forward and he's going to advance the ball. And he's going to get past players and open up space for his teammates. And if he gets the ball in the box, he has the ability to find space with amazing dribbling ability, being able to control the ball, open up space for himself, and he's able to lash it into the back of the net. And something that has improved over the last year or so is he's been able to start finishing really, really well. He's been he's been scoring goals. He was huge pivotal for Germany at that World Cup. That goal in the opening game against Scotland, he scored a goal as well against Hungary. He's overall a pivotal player, and we know he's an important player of what Bayern is trying to, Bayern's future and what they're trying to build. Jamal Musiala is their future. But for some reason, in this nomination list for the Ballon d'Or, Jamal Musiala was not on the list. And yes, there's a lot of good players in this world. First of all, I'll say this once and I'll say it again. It's ridiculous that for a Ballon d'Or that only one person can win. Why is there needed for 30 nominees? That's ridiculous. The editor-in-chief of French football that basically run the Ballon d'Or, he had an explanation for why Jamal Musiala was not in the nominations list. Let's pull it up. Speaking to the press, his name is Garcia. Garcia said, "In my opinion," which, is his opinion, there are three main reasons why he was not selected by the committee. First of all, his lack of assists in the Champions League, where he scored as many goals as Matthias Tell, for example, that is too few for a player of his caliber. He also failed to convince in important matches such as the Champions League semi-final second leg against Real Madrid or the Euro quarterfinal against Spain, where his performances were not catastrophic but rather neutral. Bayern's season, which saw them finish in the Bundesliga at its worst since 2011, did not help him either. I am sure he will return to this list in the future. So that's an interesting thing. He said they're saying he didn't show up in the big games, in which, the second leg against Bayern, he didn't really take that game over. I agree with that. The Germany game against Spain, I thought he was solid. I don't think he was bad, actually. I thought he was pretty good in that game. In fact, he did draw a foul near the end that gave Germany their last opportunity in that game. But okay, yes, he wasn't at his devastating best. And and then his lack of statistics in the Champions League, okay. And then Bayern's Bundesliga season, that doesn't help him as well. That's a big thing. I'll say this, But retroactively, you need to compare him to the players that were also on the list. You know what I mean? you know, some of these players didn't get the statistics at all as well in the Champions League that are on the Ballon d'Or nominee. Let me pull up the statistics real quick. For example, Lautaro Martinez, he's on the list. He was able to have a really good season in Serie A. He scored 24 goals in 33 matches as they won Serie A. But in the Champions League, he had 2 goals in 8 games, no assists. He didn't show up for them in the Champions League as well, Lautaro Martinez. He's on the list. Alejandro Grimaldo, you know, he had an amazing season. Combination of him and Jeremy Frimpong had an amazing season for Leverkusen. In the Europa League, he had 3 assists, 2 goals, which is good. It's not horrible. 5 goals and an assist combination for a fullback is really, really good. But didn't light up the world necessarily, you know. Emiliano Martinez, he didn't even get to play in the Champions League. He didn't play in European competition at all. Kylian Mbappe, he didn't tear it up in the Champions League as well. His general season, though, was it that much? Okay, yeah, he scored 27 goals in League One. Saliba was part of a good defense at Arsenal. But, again, they got eliminated in the Champions League group stages. I mean the Champions League quarterfinal to Jamal Musiala and Bayern Munich. Against one of the worst finishing Bayern teams in the last, as he said, since 2011. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, he was an important part of Inter Milan's team at the in Serie A. You know, 13 goals, 3 assists, had a really good season as they won Serie A. Champions League, he played 6 games. He had 1 goal and assist or assist involvement. He had 1 goal and no assists. And this is a midfielder. So for me, there's agendas. I'm not agendas, okay? I think that's a wrong thing to say. There's no agendas, but there's definitely, things that need to be fact check here. Lamine Yamal, he had a brilliant European Championship for Spain. Don't get me wrong, he had a brilliant European Championship for Spain. But again, in the Champions League, he had in the 10 matches, he had 2 assists. Cole Palmer had a great season in the Premier League. He didn't even have a chance to play in Europe, which we should. I think Cole Palmer stood. What I'm trying to say is there are players on this list that did not have Champions League statistics as well. That generally did not have a much better rounded season than Jamal Musiala. Matt Hummels, he was part of a really bad Borussia Dortmund defense, especially in the Bundesliga. They make a run in the Champions League and boom, we just need to get a Dortmund player on the list. So again, it's inconsistencies with this, and for me, Jamal Musiala, he's always a Ballon d'Or nominee. He's just so brilliant, so brilliant, and if you just watch him play, he deserves to be on that list. And then he's not like he's been inconsistent. He was one of Bayern's few bright sport points last season. But yeah, I've said my piece. Show break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Liverpool and their contract situation with their 3 stars.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Jamal Musiala not being on the Ballon d'Or nominees list. We move on to discuss Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent not being involved, or not being involved, all running out of contracts. And I want to do sort of a list, a ranking, sort of the 3 most important players for Liverpool to sign an extension. Okay. I think number 1 is Trent Alexander-Arnold, which doesn't mean he's the best player out of those 3 or most important for Liverpool in terms of success right now. But I think it's really going to leave a sour taste in a lot of Liverpool fans' mouth if they lose Trent Alexander-Arnold. This is a player that came up the ranks at Liverpool. He's a Scouser, you know. He's one of the, you know, he's born and bred part of the club, you know what I mean? He came up the ranks. He was born in Liverpool. He's a Scouser, you know. He has that sort of connection that Jamie Carragher has to the club of being a Liverpoolian, despite the fact that Jamie Carragher actually grew up being an Everton fan. And Steven Gerrard, that's also another good example. He has that sort of, you know, his blood. He has that Liverpool blood. He is a Scouser. And the way he came up the ranks, the way, you know, he was, you know, Jurgen Klopp brought him up as a youth player, as an 18-year-old, starting in the Champions League final, going through the highs and lows he had at Liverpool, becoming one of the best fullbacks in the world at Liverpool. And still, on top of that, the biggest thing, and the reason why I give him the nod in terms of most important player to keep over Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk, is this guy's 25 years old. This is a guy that'll have another 10 years at the club, playing at the highest of levels. He's a crucial piece. There's no fullback in the world that can whip in the ball the way he does, that is as creative, that can play that ball that he played to Salah to open up the deadlock against Ipswich Town that led to that Jota goal. There's probably one player in the world that's making that pass, one fullback in the world making that pass, and he is indeed Trent Alexander-Arnold. What he does, the way he can whip a ball in, the vision that he has, playing on that right-hand side, how he can get so involved in play despite only being a right back, how much of the play goes through him, his ability also on set pieces as well. He's just a brilliant player, and losing a guy that came up the ranks to, you know, potentially Real Madrid, their nemesis, in terms of Real Madrid took 2 Champions League off them, eliminate them in the Champions League 4 times in the last 5 or so years, 6 years or so. That's a sour taste in their mouth. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's just everything that represents the Liverpool. You know, he knows that, you know, he is a Liverpoolian, man. So that for me, that's the main one. And I don't think he's the best player out of these 3, or let me rephrase that. I don't think he's the most important player out of these 3. But all that, what I said, his age and all that, and also, quite simply, he's also, you know, he might not be as important as Mohamed Salah or as good as Mohamed Salah, but he's a world-class player, and he's, in my opinion, the best right back in the world. So, you know, in my opinion, he may not be better than Salah, like more important, but he's close. But he's real close. So yeah, that has to be the most important. I'd say second most important. Oh, this is a tough one in my opinion, because they're just, with Salah, he is very important in terms of goal scoring, in terms of being direct, in terms of that fear factor that defenders have going up against Liverpool because of Salah, how ruthless he is, and how he is a proper Liverpool player, and the fact that he shows up in the derby, he shows up at Old Trafford, the amazing scoring runs he has at Old Trafford. He's very, very direct. He can get goals. He's a good passer too. He's developed that game throughout his Liverpool career in terms of being able to pick out a ball as well. And the pace he has, and the relentless nature he has, the relentless nature of not being satisfied, of going after, trying to get that second, always scoring goals, game in and game out, not being satisfied. But at the same time, Virgil van Dijk is that leader in defense. A combination of him and Alisson is what made this Liverpool team the team that it is today. Because Liverpool before them used to be a team that was really fun to watch, and could get out. It would be really dynamic in terms of their pressing and be a very, very fun team, the heavy metal football. But they'd be extremely weak defensively and concede so many goals because they conceded so many chances because they were defensively not there and they gave up a lot of space. But you bring in a world-class goalkeeper in Alisson, you bring in a world-class centre-back in Virgil van Dijk, it completely changed everything. Liverpool went from a team that was extremely open and a team that teams look forward to, forward players looked forward to because they knew that they were going to get opportunities to now, you're struggling to do anything against Liverpool. They're just this dominant powerhouse, and you really go into that game thinking, we can't attack them, and they're coming after us. What are we gonna do? So it's a really tough one to say. I think slightly I'm going to lean Salah because, in this day and age, the attacker, you're always going to choose the attacker over the defender. And Virgil van Dijk is a little bit older than Mohamed Salah. Virgil van Dijk, he is nearing 34 years old, or he just turned 33, while Mo Salah is 32. But really, that's not a much big. Actually, the age thing is not a much big difference at all. Actually, in fact, you'd probably fancy Virgil van Dijk's age because the longevity of a center back is there's more chance of a center back having longevity than a player like Salah, and the way he plays too. That his direct nature, the reliance on his athleticism. Look, that is a real tough one. That is a real tough one. But I don't know. I think they're about the same. I have to lie. I don't want to say this or there because I don't want to. Because that's a really, really tough one. Liverpool, look, they're all three crucial. But the thing is, the one thing Liverpool cannot lose Trent. Because it's not just the fact that they're losing Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's on top of that. If they're losing Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's because he wants to take that next step up. And that next step up is Real Madrid. And they're already monitoring the Trent situation. So it's not just the fact that you're losing Trent Alexander-Arnold, your boyhood player that came up the club. He's born and bred a Liverpoolian. But on top of that, you lose him to Real Madrid, your arch nemesis. Again, that will leave Liverpool fans an extreme sour taste. So I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is the most important to sign an extension. And I think Salah and Van Dijk are equally important. But I think they're both under Trent Alexander-Arnold. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Kane comments on the European Championships.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed Liverpool and their situation with 3 players running out of contract, 3 crucial players. We move on to discuss Harry Kane's comments on So Kane essentially talking about the European Championship, the heartache of the European Championship, losing in the final, and how they're going to be using this as fuel for the 2026 World Cup. So yeah, Harry Kane, so he admitted he has still not, completely gotten over England and the fact that they were defeated by Spain in the European Championship. Kane said, Kane said, I think we did extremely well to get to the final. I think it wasn't an easy tournament. Hold on. Let me pull it up exactly. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, wow. Crazy thing. I saw England were taking on Ireland, and I was thinking, did Ireland get moved up to Group A? No, England got relegated into League B of the Nations League. I did not know that. Okay, but Harry Kane, he said, I think we did extremely well to get to the final. I think it wasn't an easy tournament. I don't think we reached the level in a lot of the games that we know we can. But the positive thing from that is we got to the final. Whenever it ends like that in defeat, everyone quickly goes away and it's back into your own life. You try to get a break, but before you know it, you're back for the new season. You don't fully get over it, but I think you move on and look at areas you can improve from a personal point of view, and you try and implement that in the new season. As a team, we can take a lot of positives from the summer, a lot of positives from the last 4 years especially, but ultimately it is about improving, and there are areas we can improve, especially in the games when you look back at the summer. That's now our task as players, to try and get better. These games and the next few camps are a great opportunity to do that. Every defeat is different in their own way. It is tough when you get so close to reaching one of the pinnacles of your international career and it gets taken away like that. It is really difficult, but ultimately life moves on. You have to move on. You have to get up and go again. From my point of view, it just makes me even more motivated. It puts the fire in my belly to try and get back there again in the World Cup and have a different outcome this time. Look, England has used England has gone through a lot of heartache already. A lot of heartache over this past. So we start off in 2018, losing in an extra time semi-final, winning goal by Perisic in the extra time, second half, to lose in a semi-final in the World Cup in 2018. A few years later, in the European Championship, you lose in the final at Wembley on penalties to Italy, which that in my opinion was the biggest missed opportunity for Italy, for England, especially after Luke Shaw gave them the lead so early on in that game. And then the 2022 World Cup, they got eliminated in the quarterfinals. Harry Kane missed the penalty at the end that could have sent it to extra time. And then you lose again in the European Championship final against Spain in a game that, you got thoroughly outplayed, and Spain were deserved winners of that final. Look, at some point, all these missed opportunities, because he's saying we're going to use this as motivation for the next tournament. At some point, all these missed opportunities just turn into missed opportunities that you look back on and say, oh, yeah, this is when we cost ourselves. Because I have to be honest, England have had enough motivation over the past few international tournaments, to get it done. The motivation has always been there. There's been already a lot of heartbreaks they've already been through. And now to add another one on top of it, does it really kind of take them the next? That is not going to do much. That's not going to have much of a difference at the 2026 World Cup. What will make an impact is a new manager coming in. I've made it clear Gareth Southgate is tactically inept. In terms of bringing the squad together, keeping it positive, handling the press, all that sort of intangibles part of being a manager, he's brilliant at. The team is cohesive, the team is together, they love him, he loves them. He has a positive thing going amongst the camp. Yes, okay. No real fallouts. We know with the Ben White situation, but that's sort of an unfortunate thing that sort of happened with the assistant manager. We know with that. But in terms of tactically, putting on the best 11, having that tactical set up to get these players playing really, really well, to be able to adjust in-game, to have in-game adjustments, in-game tactical changes, substitution patterns, anything that revolved anything tactics, he was completely inept at, and he was completely out of his depth. And any good team he played or good manager he took on, he got out-coached and they got outplayed because they were tactically not set up to play better than the sum of their parts. In fact, they played worse than the sum of their parts. Some of these players that England have are really talented players, but they're getting outplayed by Denmark and Serbia and Slovakia. You know what I mean? You're getting outplayed by players that are championship level sort of players or lower end Premier League players. How many players in Slovakia can get into that England 11? How many Serbian players can get into that England 11? And they're outplaying England. They're outplaying England. They're creating more big opportunities. They're dominating the game. Denmark as well. I didn't put Denmark in there because Denmark is, they have some decent players. But again, how many Denmark players get into that England 11 for that matter? How many Denmark-Slovakian, Serbian players, all three of those teams, how many of them get into that 11? Out of any of those three teams, I can't think of one. I'm trying to think, Riley. I'm really trying to think. Yeah. If we bring in Slovenia to that equation, because they also played Slovenia and they were pretty poor that game as well. Maybe Jan Oblak, he will get into that English team, English 11. But apart from that, and they're getting outplayed by these teams. They're tactically inept. He's tactically inept. He has this team playing worse than the sum of their parts. And now with the new manager coming in, now is they have the interim manager Lee Carsley. England have the FA have a huge decision to make in terms of a manager. And we're approaching 2025. The World Cup comes in 2026. So these managers can have a year or so, a year and a half to mold this team. And I don't think it's gonna take. I don't think this is a project. Let's see, like Mauricio Pochettino coming into the US, that's a little bit of a project because we don't have the sort of quality players that England have. But if you can just bring in a manager that's tactically really, really good, that can get this team, set up really, really well, playing discipline, also playing good, forward-thinking football, then I think that's what's going to take England to the next level. Not the motivation of the heartbreak of losing the European Championship final. They already lost the European Championship final in 2021. And they followed that up by getting eliminated in the quarterfinals of the World Cup. So that's not the problem. The motivation is not the issue. The English players are motivated. They have won one World Cup, and it was in 1966. This is a country that has a huge pride in their footballing culture and their footballing tradition. And they're coming to every tournament singing, "It's coming home, it's coming home," with their extremely delusional fan base that they have. So the motivation must be already there. They're just not good enough. And look, I can say this about the manager, and I will blame the manager, but the players need to show up too. The players play much better than they do for their clubs than they do for the country. The players, Gareth Southgate, he could, but for some reason in the games, the England players, they score a goal and they suddenly become, defensive. They're playing scared. They're playing like they want to defend their lead instead of go out and get the second and third goal. They're playing not to lose instead of playing to win. When you watch the game, you see players that a play was the fear, that English badge is weighing them down almost. The 3-line badge is almost weighing them down. That's just the fact of it. Gareth Southgate, yeah, he was a problem and he is not a good enough manager. But at the same time, the players need to step up too. The players have responsibility as well. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will react to some of the top soccer headlines. Before the break, we discussed Kane using Euro heartache as fuel for the 2026 World Cup. We move on to react to some of the top soccer headlines. I discussed this previously. We had the comments that came from from Ronald Koeman, basically sort of slamming Steven Bergwijn's decision to go to Saudi, discussing how any player that at his age, 26 years old, is valuing financial gain instead of sporting aspirations, will not be on this team, slamming him. And Steven Bergwijn, he responded, saying, I don't even want to play under Koeman anymore. If he had been a committed national coach, he would have called me first. Now I had to hear about it on TV. I've had many beautiful moments with him, so this is far too easy and I'm disappointed with him. I've always considered it an honor to play for Oranje, but under this national coach, I no longer want to do that. With someone who deliberately portrays me like that in the media, I am done. But who knows if there will be a new national coach in the future. I myself will never close the door, and I will only support my teammates at Oranje, just as they do with me. I have only received good messages from the internationals after my transfer. Everyone is happy for me. That is how it can be. Bergwijn moved from Ajax to Al Ittihad on September 2 in a deal worth around 21 million. And by the way, that team is stacked now. That team is stacked now. Al Ittihad. Karim Benzema. Okay, so Steven Bergwijn is there. Karim Benzema is there. N'Golo Kante, Fabinho, Moussa Diaby that just that moved from Aston Villa, recently as well. They have Predrag Rajovic, and then Hussam Aouar. If y'all remember Hussam Aouar, he was part of the team for Lyon in the COVID year that reached the Champions League. So I believe they reached the semi-final. Did they reach the semi-final? Yeah, they reached the semi-final. They got past Manchester City in the quarters. You remember that game that Raheem Sterling missed the open goal to potentially equalize? And he was a big part in playing in that midfield. It was Awar. And after that, he was actually linked with a lot of big teams. Didn't really get that next move. Now he's playing in Saudi. He's also a really, really good, clever, and tidy player in midfield. That's a stacked team. Some of the Saudi teams are actually legitimately getting stacked. Al Nassr as well now. They have Ronaldo. They have Sadio Mane, Laporte, Otavio, Brozovic, Angelo Gabriel, Mohamed Simakan from Leipzig. Yeah, they Saudi are getting some teams. I believe Al Hilal is also really stacked as well. They haven't they don't even have Neymar, but they have Mitrovic, Malcolm, Lodi, Koulibaly, Milinkovic-Savic, Ruben Neves, Cancelo, Yassine Bono, Mitrovic. Bro, these are some really good teams now coming in Saudi, I have to say. These are some teams that actually can compete at like the Club World Cup sort of stage. And they won the Saudi League last year without Neymar. Now Neymar coming back in. There's some really good teams now in Saudi, I have to say. Maybe this experiment is working after all for them. And they've had a little bit more composed level of spending. I think last year was sort of their announcing, their tactics is we want to announce our stuff of trying to compete on the bigger stage. So they went out and spent these big sums of money. But now they're trying to be a little bit more composed, a little bit measured. And look, if they can build a league there that's really, really competitive, that can potentially even compete with some of these European teams at the Club World Cup, the more quality football we have across the world, the better, in my opinion. But going back to that, so Steven Bergwijn, he said that about Koeman, and I have to say, I agree with him at the point of, I think it is a little bit backstabbing in terms of how Koeman said this publicly in the media before addressing this directly with Bergwijn, not really speaking to him about it first. For me, that's wrong. That's extremely wrong. First of all, you got to have a conversation man to man to him. You got to explain to him, oh, this is wrong. You can't do this. You can't go to Saudi. You're only 26. And then, and then if you want to, if you get asked about Bergwijn in the media, you can go be, you can be honest and straightforward. But if you are going to do that, if you're going to make these comments that Koeman is, you owe it to Steven Bergwijn, who you previously managed. You managed him at this European Championship. In fact, Koeman started him in a few games at the European Championship. You owe him at least the respect of telling him your opinion first before you go out and say it into the public. For me, this is a form of backstabbing, and it's wrong, and it's not the way a proper national team manager should behave and conduct himself, first of all. And then on top of that too, I've also, and I agree with Koeman's original statement in the first place regarding any player at this age that goes to Saudi instead of continuing on is valuing financial opportunities rather than sporting opportunities, sporting aspirations. I agree with that. And if Ronald Koeman has every right, if he has that opinion, to not call up Steven Bergwijn for the national team coach as well. But he has no right to say these things that he's saying if he doesn't initially address it with Steven Bergwijn. And on top of that too, Koeman's comments, he made comments saying, he didn't even talk to me about this. Why would he? He's a player, he's making his own move. He's making his move to another club. Why should he address this with you? Well, you're a national team coach. You don't get to control his future. You don't have any input in his future. Maybe if he looks up as you as a role model, as a mentor, okay. But You don't call your national team manager if you're making a move in the club situation. The national team manager, it has nothing to do with him. We move on though. Wow, that took up a lot of the segment. We move on though to the CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers. Real quick to recap. We previewed this game yesterday. Brazil were able to get the win over Ecuador. Peru and Colombia finished 1-1 at the Nacional de Lima, and Uruguay and Paraguay finished 0-0. And Luis Suarez is sort of send-off game in which he actually started this game. And yeah, it is his retirement. It was his farewell in the draw. And he ends his international career for Uruguay. But yep, that's the end. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.